Hi guys. So this is best I could try at this, so that's why there's writing in here already, because I screwed up the first video. So we're gonna just talk about lesson 2, the corresponding parts and scale factors, okay? So just real quick, just remember that times always means of. So this is asking me to find the product mentally. So if I said what is 1/4 of 32, that means 4 times what gives me 32, and that would be 8. Or it's just 32 divided by 4. If I have a fourth of something, it means I'm dividing by 4, okay? So on this one, it says 7.2 times 1/9. So what is 1/9 of 7.2? Well, I know 1/9 of 72, okay? 1/9 of 72 is just 72 divided by 9, which is 8. But on this one, it was asking me not 72, but 7.2. So if I had 72 and I divide by 10, it means I move the decimal one place over. So if I have 8 and I divide by 10, it means I move the decimal place one place over. So in my head, I could know that as 0.8. And the same thing holds true for this one. So it's saying, what is 1/4 of 56? Okay. So in other words, what is 56 divided by 4? Well, I know 8 goes into 56 7 times, right? So if I want to, I know eighths would be 7. Fourths are half of 8. So if I doubled 7, I get 14, if that makes sense. Or I could just divide it by 4. Again, I would get 14. So 1/4 of 56 just means 56 divided by 4, which is 14. But this is 5.6, so I need to divide it by 10 and move it over one place. That's how I got 1.4, okay? All right, now on this side, what I want to show you is, this is just a note page that I added in here just to kind of show you how these work. So corresponding sides, what that means is corresponding angles have to be congruent. That means the angles have to be identical. But how do I know if the sides are corresponding? It means they're in the same position on another shape, okay? That's what the first paragraph is telling me. They have to have exactly, for them to be congruent is what this part's telling me right here. If the shapes are congruent, then they have to have exactly the same shape and size. That means that all the sides have to be congruent and all the angles have to be congruent, okay? So it gave me an example of this quadrilateral, which is a trapezoid. So what I did is I just kind of cut it out, which if I could find where I cut it out, would be all set. Here it is. All right, so if I looked at this, okay, I just cut one out to show you. If I took this and put it over here, they're congruent. All the angles are exactly the same. All the sides are exactly the same. So what I want to know is which sides correspond to which side. So if I looked here, this is side AD or DA. It really doesn't matter which way you say it. So when I took this over here, it corresponded to SP. And that's what this is telling me. AD corresponded to SP down here, okay? That means they're the same size. If it were a scale factor, there would be a scale factor that's going to be the exact same. So if I multiply this side by 2, I'd have to multiply all sides by 2. All right, so here it's saying side AB, and I had to figure out it corresponds with side PQ because it's the exact same side. So that's how I know which ones correspond with which ones. If I took this, the angles have to be the same. That means angle D, it was between the green side and the orange side that corresponded, has to be exactly the same as angle S. Angle A had to be exactly the same size as angle B, okay? Angle B, I made a little cloud, had to be the same as Q. Angle C had to be the same as R. That's how I know they're corresponding sides, okay? The angles have to be congruent. All right, moving on. All right, on this page here, I kind of already did some writing on here, so you have to excuse me. All right, so I've got side 3, 4, 5, okay? It says here's triangle O, followed by a whole bunch of other triangles. And I'm gonna make sense of all this. I wanna know, it says your teacher will assign you 2 of the triangles to look at. We wanna know, are they scale copies, okay? So I'm gonna go through all of them because it won't take that long. So look at this. Remember I said that corresponding angles the angles have to be congruent. The sides don't have to be congruent. They have to be proportional, or they have to have a scale factor, but the angles have to be congruent. So I could automatically get rid of this guy because it doesn't have a 90-degree angle. This has one 90-degree angle. This doesn't. This does. This does. This does. This does. This does. This doesn't. So I could automatically get rid of triangle F and triangle A just by the angle alone, okay? All right, so the next thing I'd have to say is, do they have a scale factor? Okay, whatever I multiply one side by, I have to multiply all the sides by. So on this triangle, well, this side's 3. Its corresponding side over here is 3. Well, that's pretty much easy to figure out. This side was 5. This side is 5. And then this side was 4, and this side was 4. So guess what? That's a congruent triangle. My angles are all the same. My sides are exactly the same. This triangle is congruent. All right, this one, you can see I already crossed it out, but I'm going to show you why. All right, so if I figure out how do I get from 3 to 2, okay? So in other words, if I had 3 and I want to multiply it by something, how do I get it equal to 2? Well, guess what? I need to get rid of it. If I do this, 3 times 2/3. When we multiply fractions, boom, boom, those cross out because they equal 1, 2 equals 2. So I know my scale factor here from here to here, not on all of them necessarily because I don't know, but in order to get from 3 to 2, my scale factor would have to be 2/3. If I have the side 5, okay, if I took its corresponding side 4 and multiplied it by 2/3, I have to get 5, okay? If I do 4 times 2/3, I actually get 8/3. It's an 8, which isn't 5. So I automatically know that triangle doesn't work because these two sides, I don't even care what the third side does, but these two sides don't. And this visually doesn't look like a congruent triangle or a scale factor anyway, because the sides look kind of funky. That one's really short. Or there's another way I could have looked at it. This went down 1, this went up 1. It can't be corresponding. I can't multiply by the same number. Okay. All right, if I looked at this one, again, if I get, I'm going to take the easiest one I can get to, 4 to 2, I divided by 2, and that gave me 2. If I do 3 divided by 2, do I get 3/2? Yep, because 3 over 2 literally means 3 divided by 2. If I do 5 divided by 2, I get 5/2. So my scale factor here would actually equal, I'm multiplying it by 1/2. Remember, if I divide by 2, it's the same as multiplying it by 1/2. So this one is half the size of this one. All right, if I looked at E's a little bit easier. If I do 3 times 2, I got 6. That means I got to multiply all sides by 2. If I do 5 times 2, this side, times 2, did I get 10? Yep. If I did 4 times 2, I got 8. So that triangle has a scale factor of, what did I do to the original to get to the new one? I multiplied it by 2, so this one has a scale factor of 2. All right, we already crossed that guy out because he didn't work. This is the one. I've got stuff all over the place, so I don't want you to look at any of that stuff. What I did here, and I'm just going to show it on a different piece of paper because I made a mess on this one, and this one I messed up on the first time because I said it wrong. If I have to figure out how, and I'm going to pick any of my sides, I'm going to go 3 to 2. How do I get from 3 times what gives me 2? Okay, we kind of did that up here already. Remember I said, if I need to get a 2 in the top, that means I have to have 2/3. All right, so 3 times 2/3, remember this would cross out, and I would get 2. So I know my scale factor has to be 2/3. So if I go back to, so I tried this, I did the pink side. Okay, I just did 3 times 2/3 gave me 2. So that works. Does it work with my other ones? If I go to this side here, 4, and I multiply it by 2/3, do I get 8/3? Okay, so if I multiply this out, I do 4 times 2/3, I get 8/3. So that side worked. Looks good so far. Now I'm going to try my last side. If I did 5 times 2/3, do I get 10/3? Well, I did that right here. 5, it would be 5 over 1 times 2 is 10/3. So that triangle worked. Okay. Now, if I look at H, This side's 4, this side's 2. It means I divided by 2. Just make my thing go crazy. Here we go. If I do 3 divided by 2, do I get 2? No. So I automatically can cross that one out. That guy didn't work. All right, so that's what that's telling you. They did it with a list down here, but I'm just showing you overall how I would figure it out. So I have to have a scale factor. Oops, I forgot to put scale factors 2/3 right here. So I have to have a scale factor. My angles have to be congruent. That's really important. I don't care what the scale factor is. If your angles are congruent, it's not going to work. And I have to have a scale factor in order for them to be scale triangles. Okay? All right, let's move on. I kind of went out of order, but that's okay. All right, so this just says corresponding parts. So let's look at this. It says here's a figure in 2 copies with some points labeled. So on the table, it says point P, which is right here, on copy 1 matches up with point F. And on copy 2 matches up with point Z. Okay, so my points line up, so that's good. Line segment LM, okay, so line segment LM is right here. So that would have to be BC here, and, oops, wrong one, WV there, okay? So line segment LM matched up with line segment, and you would write the line segment like this, okay? You don't have to write out segment. That means line segment, and this was WV. All right, so it's saying which one matched up to EF. Okay, so let's highlight EF. Highlighters are the best. Okay, so if I go to my original, it would have to be in the same position. That would have to be OP. I'm just going to write it, line segment OP. And on my other one, it would have to be YZ. Okay, and I can match everything up like that. So point W on this one, point W would have to match up with point C, and that would have to match up with point M. Okay, so this would be point M, this would be point C. All right, now my angle is going to be a little different. So if I have angle KLM, what that means is L has to be in the center, okay? It's KLM. L has to be my center point. So KLM is this angle. That means it has to match up with this angle, which has to match up with this angle. So if I'm writing them out, I would start with, this one went KLM. I would have to go in the exact same order. So this one would be ABC, angle, ABC. This one would have to be UVW. So when I do an angle, I have to go in the exact same order. So I started with K, then L, then M. I got to go in the same order, so the angle is the same. And then this one says angle XYZ, which would be, oh, this is one that didn't work. All right, XYZ. That means I start at X, I go to Y to Z, so that's this angle. So on this figure, it would have to be this angle, same position, and this angle, okay? So if I'm writing them out, this started with X, Y, Z, so my middle one had to be D, E, F. Let's write that in. So this one would have to be N, O, P. All right, so my question here is either a scaled copy of the original. Well, let's look at this. If my angles are the same, which it looks like this angle and this angle appear to be the same, and saying using tracing paper, I'm going to tell you they're the same, okay? Does that look like the same angle? You know what? That's an obtuse angle. This is an acute angle, so this can't be a scaled copy. It doesn't look like it. It looks like it's elongated anyway, but it can't be a scaled copy because the angles are not congruent. I can do that before even checking the sides, okay? I don't even know how long the sides are, but I do know that that's an obtuse angle, that's an acute angle, that's an acute angle, that's not the same, okay? So that's what I'm going to say is that this looks like it's a scaled copy, okay? Checking the angles, it actually is. I'm not going to check on the angles. It's going to take too long. But this one is a scaled copy, and it looks like it. It looks like the same shape, just smaller. This one, you can visually see that it looks like it's just stretched, okay? All right, so that's all that was asking us. All right, look at those go. Sorry, wrong page. Now, I just want to go over the lesson summary. So that's what it's telling you. So just to make ourselves 300% clear on it. All right, so it says a figure and its scale copy have corresponding parts, or parts that are in the same position in relation to the rest of the figure on the other figure. Okay, they can be points, they can be segments, they can be angles, but they have to be in the same position. So if I were looking at these two, angle A matches with angle G, okay? Side AB is in the same position as side GH, okay? And I'll do a couple of them, I can do all the sides. So if I look at point B, it's in the same position as point H. This side is in the same position as this side, okay? Let's do a couple more before I run out of colors. All right, I'm just gonna go here. This point F is in the same position as point L. So this side has to correspond with this side. Okay, so if I went through all of them, this side's going to correspond to this side's going to correspond to this side. Okay, so I find my corresponding sides. Are my angles congruent? My angles have to be congruent. And in this case, they are. I measured them already. They are congruent. So angle A and angle G would give me, or BA, I could call it two different things. I can call it angle BAF. I could call it angle FAB, or I could just call it angle A because there's no other angle A. So same here, A and G match up, B and H match up, C and I match up, okay? The third thing I'm gonna check is, do they have a scale factor? So I'm gonna go with my easiest one I can pick. How do I get from 3 to 6? I did 3 times 2. So that means my scale factor is 2. Okay, I only have a scale factor if it works for all of them. If it doesn't, then there's no scale factor. It just isn't corresponding, okay? So if I went from 3.2 to 6.4, did I multiply by 2? I did. If I get from 2 to 4, did I multiply by 2? I did. It has to work on every side. Side 2.8 times 2 has to give me 5.6. Side 2 times 2 has to give me 4, which it does. And then I think I only missed this one. 1.3 times 2 gives me 1.6. So they're scaled copies of each other. All right, and that's what that's telling you. So the big things you're getting out of here are corresponding sides and angles. Corresponding angles have to be congruent. Corresponding sides are in the same position on the other shape. And in order for them to be, have a scale factor, if they have a scale factor, then they're similar figures. Okay? All right. Have a great day.